So I have been looking forward to this particular movie ever since it was announced about 2 years ago that this movie was even going to be a thing. And of course, one of the biggest reasons as to why I was really looking forward to this movie was because Chance the Rapper's in it. And now anybody that knows me knows that like Chance is my man. I really fuck with the kid. And so when I found out that he was going to be in this movie and that it was going to be directed by one of his friends who has been directing a lot of his music videos over the years, Austin Vesely, I was like, all right, I have to see this movie. I am already invested off bucks. And so they announced it, and they said that the movie is supposed to be coming out in 2017. This is back in 2016. Not too long after they announced the movie, they released this mini teaser trailer where Chance is just sitting on a motorcycle and then he puts the helmet on his head, and that's it. And then it just went silent. Like, we didn't really hear anything much else about the movie. I mean, there may have been, like a post here or there from Chance or from Austin, but no real big news about the movie. And then we finally ended up getting another teaser trailer. This time it was a bit longer, and it consisted of that computer game where you draw the line and then the little guy on the motorcycle follows that line and whatnot. So it consisted of that while also showing clips of the movie and then, showing the title. It was a cute little teaser trailer. But then also around the time that we got this longer teaser trailer, we then found out who else was going to be a part of this movie. And it was a lot of pretty big names. And you had people like Zazie Beetz, Hannibal Buress, of course Chance the Rapper, Paul Scheer, the guy from Stranger Things. So, it was a lot of people, big name people that were a part of this movie. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm sure that we're going to be hearing about this movie pretty soon. No, and then it went silent. They said that the movie was supposed to come out in 2017. 2017 came and went. Now we're in 2018. I'm still waiting. And then we finally get a full-on trailer for the movie. Now, side note, when I saw the trailer, I said that this movie is going to be either really good or really bad. Just saying. And so we finally get this trailer, right? But I'm no fool, okay? I notice patterns and I try to, not fall into that same trap. They had put stuff out before, but then once they would put it out, they just wouldn't say anything else about the movie. So when I saw this trailer, I figured that we wouldn't be seeing this movie until like the end of 2019. But then after the trailer came out, it was announced that there was going to be a special one-night screening of the movie in a bunch of different theaters across the country, where at the end of the viewing of the movie, there would be a simultaneous telecast that would be happening in Chicago with some of the people that were a part of the movie. And so I had thought about going. I did. But then I basically decided against it because I was like, well, no, this means that the movie's actually going to be coming out in theaters pretty soon. Like, they're showing it, in theaters now. But then, to my surprise, I find out that that one night showing was literally the only showing that the movie would get in the theatrical format. After that one night, that was it. Now, if I wanted to see the movie, I was going to have to go on the internet and rent or buy it. But because Austin was at the head of this movie and because Chance was also a part of this movie, I said, okay, fine, I have to still see this movie. So I rented it on YouTube. Now, honestly, the fact that this movie only had the one-night theatrical run should have told me everything that I needed to know about the movie right then and there. And it kind of did, but I still held out hope. And so, guys, as I say that, I don't want for y'all to think that I'm just completely devaluing a movie, if it only gets released on the internet or if it doesn't get any kind of real release in theaters, because, that's not the case. But I've seen enough video-on-demand digital HD movies within, the past year to last me for, a lifetime. And I have noticed that movies that tend to get those kinds of releases aren't usually the best. It's not really a good sign for the movie itself. But then also, seeing as though we have all of these big names that are a part of this movie, I thought that if anything, the star power would be enough to give it more than just a one-night theatrical run. And then also with this movie being an A24 studio film, again, you would think that it would get a little bit more of a theatrical run, if maybe for a month or something, I don't know. But no, and I see why. And so Slice takes place in this realistic but yet supernatural world where people and supernatural beings live amongst each other. But the relationship has always been a strained one because even though they live amongst each other, there is still a clear hierarchy to society where people are good and ghosts are bad. And so because ghosts are bad, they're essentially relegated into their own little ghettos, which then makes up Ghost Town within the larger town of Kingfisher. Then once some mysterious pizza delivery boy murder starts to happen in Ghost Town, a bunch of different characters ranging from a journalist to a chick whose relationship with the first victim isn't explicitly made clear, is her reason for trying to figure out the murder because they were together, were they just really good friends, or are they, like, what's going on? I don't know. And then also some cops all try to figure out what or who is behind the murders. Guys, I was not a fan of this movie. It definitely caters to the most niche of audiences. If you like, those B movies, obviously going for a cult classic label that's also like purposely shitty and just all over the place movies, then I'm sure that you will find some kind of value in this movie. And if you've actually seen the trailer, then you would know that that description isn't a real surprise because, well, it's exactly what is in the trailer, okay? The trailer delivers on its promise. The movie is exactly what you would expect for it to be. And I'm not gonna lie, there is a part of me that feels really disappointed and also a bit bad that, I didn't enjoy this movie because seeing as though this is Austin's first feature-length film, I know that this was his baby, and I can definitely tell that this movie was made by someone who actually loves film, right? Because too many times have I seen a movie that, I can tell is just done for monetary gain and pretty much nothing else. Or, I watch movies where it's clear that, they don't necessarily have the highest level of respect for the art form. And so knowing that that he's been into film, and like I said, knowing that this is his first movie, I know that he really put a lot of care and effort into it. But if you know my reviews, then you know that I try to be as honest and as forthcoming and as objective as possible when it comes to these movies. So I gotta call a spade a spade. Now, for one, this movie is a lot. Okay, it's really trying to be a lot of different things all at one time. For one, the movie is meant to be a horror, which, side note, let me just say, I'm tired of movies that are being labeled as horror or scary or thriller or whatever, and then they not actually fulfill that promise of actually scaring you. I mean, psychological thrillers are cool, but and I'm not someone that even likes scary movies, but if I'm watching a scary movie, I am expecting to be scared, and when I walk out of a movie and I'm not scared, there's a problem. And that's basically what happens with this movie. I mean, yeah, there is the fact that it revolves around the supernatural and people get killed and all that kind of stuff, but other than that, there's no real horror to this movie. The movie's also meant to be a comedy. It, of course, already, like I said, employs the techniques of B movies. It's shitty on purpose. It also has this investigative element to it. It also tries to throw in some political commentary, which didn't really do much in the movie. And it's also meant to be, a kind of parody or mockery of those kinds of 80s B movies, but then at the same time it wholeheartedly embraces all of that. So it's a lot. And I'm not saying that movies that try to be a lot of different things at once cannot work, because I've seen time and time again movies that are able to pull that off. I mean, going back just a couple of months with Sorry to Bother You, that movie definitely attempts to be a lot of different things at once. And so I do think that some parallels can be drawn between the two movies. But where I think Sorry to Bother You excelled and this movie Slice did not is in the fact that Sorry to Bother You still had the political commentary that, was able to hold everything together. No matter how wild things got, it was still rooted in political commentary. So it's like Boots Riley is throwing all of these things at the board and using the political commentary, as the glue to really hold it all together. Even though toward the end it did become a mess. Overall, I thought that the movie was a beautiful mess. But with Slice, that doesn't really happen. For me, it feels like Austin is throwing all of these things onto the board, and things that definitely could work. I do think that the movie, as fantastical and out there and wild as it is, that it definitely still could have worked. And I love the fact that this movie was so fresh and original. But yeah, he was throwing things at the board without anything to really, hold them in place and really, keep everything together. It was almost like he was using a cheap kind of glue, no shade. And I also feel like the fact that the movie didn't really focus in on one specific central character, that it also didn't help. The way that the movie's marketed, they definitely make you think that Chance the Rapper and his werewolf character are going to be a central character in the movie, but he doesn't even show up until like halfway through, and then even then his scenes aren't, these long, full, grand things either. And so like I said, seeing as though this movie is incredibly out there and wild and it's fresh and it's original, it definitely relies on the audience to really suspend any kind of judgment or disbelief, because we are watching this world where living people and ghosts and witches and demons and werewolves all coexist, and then there's gentrification and drug dealers and pizza boys, And I do think that Austin did a good job in really setting up the environment to where, you're not questioning the central conflict of the story. But I do think that when it came to some of the smaller intricacies and nuances of the world and the relationships between the characters and things like that just wasn't really there. Now, in terms of the acting, I think all of the well-known actors did a pretty good job in their roles. I think Zazie was really good in her role, but that's nothing real surprising because this is what they do for a living. When it came to some of the more unknown people, some of the acting was questionable, but overall, I don't really have any huge complaints with the acting in general. However, there's one person in particular that I need to talk about, and that is Chancellor Bennett. Now, I know that Chance is not an actor, okay? He's a rapper. He's the rapper, if you will. But I do know that he's someone that loves movies and acting and just the world of film in general. I know that that's something that is of huge interest to him. And besides that, I don't know how many of you all know, but this is actually not the first acting job of Chance's. He actually, back in, I believe, 2015, starred in a Vice short film called Mr. Happy, and I thought that it was really good. And Chance also did a really good job playing this depressed and suicidal character. If you have not seen Mr. Happy, it is on YouTube. It's like 25 minutes long. I would definitely say check it out. And I know that now to the larger public, Chance is known as being this positive and upbeat guy. And this isn't to say that he wasn't this 3 or 4 years ago, but the brand is definitely different than from what it was a couple of years ago, where it felt a bit more raw and dark. And I don't know if one of the reasons as to why he was so good in his Mr. Happy role, if it has anything to do with the fact that he was able to really connect with that character. I know that even though he didn't have the roughest upbringing, it also wasn't peaches and cream either. And so I'm sure that all of those emotions and things like that he felt growing up, that he was really able to pull from and use in Mr. Happy. Now, even though I don't know that for sure, I can definitely say that I'm at least pretty sure that it played a role in what it is that he brought to the character. But with this particular character in Slice, he didn't really have that advantage, and I think this is where his shortcomings as a novice actor really shine through. Now, I'm not saying that Chance was just completely horrible in this role. I've seen worse acting in the past. I think that Chance did a really good job in bringing forth, the charm and charisma that's supposed to be there to his character Dax. And so I do think that from, the standpoint of Chance not being an actor, that he did a pretty good job. But when you compare that to the big leagues of the acting world, the people that have been studying this and doing it for years, it's a no from me, dog. And so, yeah, I think, Chance needed a few more lessons with his acting coach for this particular movie, if he even used one, because who knows? And so, yeah, overall, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. When it came to the comedy, I thought a lot of it fell flat for me. But do keep in mind that I'm not one of those people that thinks that I have to laugh at every single joke in a movie in order for the comedy to be well worth it. If anything, for me, the laughter is the bonus. I know that comedy you know, when you really try to break it down, you know, there's a lot of like mathematical equations that go into, you know, creating the perfect joke. And so when I see a clever joke that has been crafted, even if I may not laugh, I still find value in it. And I do think that there were some moments in the movie that did have that kind of effect. Overall, a lot of it fell flat. I also felt like the pacing of the movie was a little off. There were certain scenes for me that I felt like didn't really get the chance to breathe, I guess, like, is the best way that I can really describe it. Like, I feel like in certain moments of the movie that Austin should have just slowed things down a little bit, I guess I could say. And I also felt like there were certain cuts and shots that didn't really work for me, or that I found to be a bit unnecessary. So yeah, I'm not gonna say that I hated the movie, because even with all of its flaws, it still has that endearing effect to it that I think still shines through all of the mess. But I'm just, it's not for me. You know, I'm not gonna say that the movie is good, but it's just, it's not for me. Like I said, if you're into that 80s B movie cult classic kind of thing, then you'll probably get some enjoyment out of it. But I didn't like it. I didn't like it.